I think this is a really, really interesting project. It is far more than just a contest for architecture, I think. It should be something that we should all think about in everyday life, because there's one part that is satirical in it, of course, yeah. What kind of house should we build for a dictator so that he leaves us alone? But on the other hand, it's really the question, how can buildings and how can the architecture rule also become something that we could call an actant, in the actant theory. How can architecture act also? And yeah, could it control power or could it enforce power, and how should we think about this? So this is for me a philosophical question, it's an artistic question, and it's a political question. There is no way to not deal with the question also of cities and of housing and of buildings. So the question of architecture moving us around is very important. We can look at a lot of festivals, movies. I could have a lot of examples also from museums. I think about 2 exhibitions now in Austria that we have, which are all about, on the one hand, social housing, social architecture that provides security for people, provides them with everyday needs, which was of course not invented in the 21st century, but goes back very much to the beginning of the 20th century. And on the other hand, we have these gated communities, questions of extreme richness, exclusion through architecture, and so on. On the one hand, we have a capitalist art scene that defines relevance by capital, in the sense of, does an art piece has enough capital? Is it sellable? Will it be famous? Will it bring something for those who produce it and buy it? And on the other hand, we have some kind of subversive or off art scene which functions completely different, where the capital factors are different. So criticism and critical approach to society is more important. So I think relevance is always a question of context. Who defines relevance? Who thinks that something should be relevant and then produces relevance? Relevance is produced, it's not just there. Society gives relevance to art or not. So in this sense, the question is, in which scene are we already? And I would say a competition like thinking about House of a Dictator plays wonderfully in both spheres. It could be understood as something like, let's give me a dictator who gives me money to build his house, but it could also be understood as a very subversive act of thinking about how to deal with dictatorship in architecture. So this is something that I like very much about this competition.